The massive Vex flagship hovered against the backdrop of stars, its silver hull reflecting Earth's blue glow. Inside the main conference chamber, Captain Jack Reed straightened his uniform and took a deep breath. After months of careful messages and planning, humans were about to meet their first alien civilization face to face. "Ready, sir?" asked Lieutenant Ben, Jack's second-in-command. "As ready as anyone can be to meet aliens," Jack replied with a tight smile. "Just remember the protocol. No sudden movements. Follow their customs. And for heaven's sake, don't sneeze." The six-person human delegation stood in formation as the chamber doors slid open. The Vex entered in pairs, tall beings with gray-blue skin and 4 arms. Their elongated heads featured 2 large eyes that seemed to change color depending on the angle of light. Admiral Grot, the Vex commander, stepped forward. His translator device hummed softly before projecting his words. "Earth representatives, we welcome you to this historic meeting between our peoples." Jack bowed slightly, following the briefing instructions. "On behalf of Earth, we are honored to begin this friendship between our worlds." The meeting proceeded smoothly at first. The humans presented gifts, digital libraries of Earth music, art collections, and scientific knowledge. The Vex offered navigation charts and technical specifications for basic interstellar communication devices. During the discussion, Jack noticed the Vex scientists at the edges of the room taking readings with their devices. One scientist approached Admiral Grot, whispering urgently while pointing at a screen. The Admiral's eyes flashed a deep purple before returning to their normal blue. "Is everything all right?" Jack asked. "Yes," Admiral Grot said too quickly. "Our scanners are simply adjusting to your unique biology." 3 hours into the meeting, Admiral Grot announced it was time for the traditional Vex welcome ceremony. "In our culture, sharing food and drink seals a peaceful agreement," he explained as servers brought in trays with small crystal cups filled with a glowing blue liquid. Jack noticed the Vex scientists exchanging glances and typing rapidly on their devices. One scientist approached Admiral Grot again, showing him something on a screen. The Admiral's eyes briefly flashed red before he nodded and continued smiling at the humans. "A simple toast," Admiral Grot said, raising his cup, "to peaceful relations between our peoples." The human delegation raised their cups in response. As Jack brought the liquid to his lips, he noticed the strange tension in the room. Every Vex was watching him intently, their eyes now a strange yellow-green color. The liquid tasted bitter but not unpleasant, similar to strong coffee with a hint of metal. Jack drank it completely, as the briefing had explained was customary. Only then did he notice that Admiral Grot had merely touched the cup to his mouth without drinking. The room went completely silent. The Vex stared at Jack with what could only be described as horror. "Is something wrong?" Jack asked, suddenly concerned. The Vex scientists rushed forward with their scanning devices, circling the human delegation. One scientist's device began beeping rapidly as it was pointed at Jack's chest. "Impossible," the scientist muttered, his translator picking up the word. Admiral Grot's composure broke. "You consumed it. All of it." "Yes," Jack replied, confused. Was that not the custom? The Vex officials began talking rapidly among themselves in their native language, too fast for the translators to keep up. Jack caught phrases like metabolic impossibility and toxic resistance. Lieutenant Ben leaned close to Jack. "Sir, I think something just went very wrong." "Or very right," Jack whispered back, maintaining his diplomatic smile. "They're shocked but not attacking. Let's see where this goes." One thing was clear. This first meeting had taken an unexpected turn, and humanity's place in the galaxy might depend on what happened next. Admiral Grot paced the length of the Vex science lab, his 4 arms clasped behind his back. The chief scientist, Tarn, worked frantically at his station, analyzing data streams that flowed across multiple holographic displays. "Explain it again," Grot demanded. "How did the humans survive?" Tarn's eyes shifted to a pale yellow, indicating deep concentration. The compound we used was Nexilin 5, Admiral. It disrupts neural pathways in every known sentient species. It should have caused immediate paralysis, followed by respiratory failure. Yet the human captain drank it like water, Grot said, slamming one of his fists on the table. He even asked for more during the second meeting. The lab doors slid open, and military officer Dax marched in. Unlike the scientists with their slender bills, Dax was broad-shouldered and heavily armored. His eyes glowed a dangerous red. "The High Council is demanding answers," Dax announced. "The humans have returned to their ship, still alive and completely unaware that we tried to eliminate them." Tarn gestured to a display showing a rotating human DNA strand. "Their genetic structure is unlike anything we've encountered. It appears they evolved on a planet filled with toxins similar to our most deadly compounds. What would kill us has become merely food to them." Admiral Grode's eyes darkened. "You're saying they're immune to our biological weapons?" "Not just immune," Tarn replied. "Their bodies process these compounds efficiently. Captain Reed's vital signs actually improved after consuming the Nexilin 5. Officer Dax stepped closer to the display. "This makes them the most dangerous species we've ever encountered. We must capture specimens for further testing." "The diplomatic incident," Admiral Grot began, "can be avoided," Dax interrupted. "Their maintenance crew is scheduled to work on the outer docking ring tomorrow. We can take them without alerting their command structure." Grot considered this briefly. "Do it, but keep this operation classified. The High Council must not know until we have results." The next day, engineer Tom Miller and his 3-person maintenance team docked with the Vex ship's outer ring. They wore standard spacesuits and carried toolkits to repair communication relays. "Check your oxygen levels," Tom reminded his team as they exited their small shuttle. "Standard 4-hour rotation, people." As they worked on the hull, none of them noticed the small drones monitoring their movements. When they reached the furthest point from their shuttle, a section of the hull suddenly opened beneath them. Tom barely had time to shout a warning before his team was pulled inside by some invisible force. The hull section closed seamlessly behind them. They woke in separate containment cells with transparent walls. Tom pounded against the barrier, his spacesuit gone, replaced by a simple gray jumpsuit. "What is this?" he shouted. "We're here under diplomatic agreement." Scientist Tarn approached the cell, accompanied by 2 guards. "I apologize for this unpleasantness," he said through a translator, "but your species represents something we've never encountered before." From a lab station, Tarn retrieved a syringe filled with green liquid. "This is a compound called Mortivin. 1 drop can destroy an entire ecosystem on most worlds. We need to understand why your captain survived our previous test." Tom backed against the wall. "Test? What test? We came in peace, and we will return you in peace," Tarn said, "once we understand what you are." He pressed a button, and mechanical arms descended from the ceiling of Tom's cell, restraining him. As the needle approached his arm, Tom struggled uselessly. "Our people will come looking for us. By then, we'll have our answers," Tarn replied calmly as the green liquid entered Tom's bloodstream. To Tarn's astonishment, instead of convulsing in agony, Tom merely winced and then glared at him with defiance. "Is that all you've got?" Tom growled, though he could feel his heart racing. Across the lab, Officer Dax watched with growing alarm. "These humans are not just resistant," he said quietly to Admiral Grot. "They are something else entirely." "The High Council must be informed," Grot replied. "We may have discovered the most dangerous species in the galaxy." Tom Miller stared at the ceiling of his cell, counting the hours by the rhythmic hum of the Vex ship's engines. 3 days had passed since his capture, or at least he thought it was 3 days. Without windows or a clock, time blurred together in endless cycles of tests and recovery. The door to the lab hissed open. Scientist Tarn entered, followed by 2 assistants pushing a hovering cart covered with vials of different colored liquids. "Good morning, human," Tarn said, his translator making his voice sound flat and mechanical. "I trust you slept well." Tom didn't answer. He'd learned that showing weakness only encouraged more tests. Tarn approached the transparent wall of Tom's cell. "Today we try something new." The previous compounds were disappointing in their effects. "Sorry to ruin your day," Tom said with a bitter smile. "Maybe poisoning guests isn't the best way to make friends." Tarn's eyes flickered to a deep purple, a color Tom had learned meant frustration. "You misunderstand our purpose. We are not trying to harm you. We are trying to understand you." The scientist picked up a vial of black liquid that seemed to absorb the light around it. "This is void extract. It comes from the deepest trenches of the gas giant Nyx. It destroys cellular structure on contact. Nothing survives exposure." Tom felt his stomach tighten with fear, but kept his face neutral. "Sounds delightful." In the cell next to Tom's, Anna, the team's electrical specialist, pressed her hand against the dividing wall. Over the past days, they had developed a simple mocking code to communicate when the Vex weren't watching. "Stay strong," she tapped quietly. The mechanical arms descended again, pinning Tom to the examination table. A needle extended from the ceiling, filled with the black liquid. "For what it's worth," Tarn said, "the dose is minimal. If you survive, we will administer the treatment protocol." "And if I don't?" Tom asked. Tarn's eyes shifted to blue, the color of scientific detachment. "Then we will have valuable data." The needle pierced Tom's skin, and the black liquid entered his bloodstream. A burning sensation spread from the injection site, racing through his veins like fire. Tom clenched his teeth to keep from screaming as sweat broke out across his body. Tarn and his assistants watched intently, recording every reaction. Minutes passed, and Tom continued to breathe, though each breath felt like inhaling broken glass. "Remarkable," Tarn whispered. "His cells are actually adapting to the compound." Officer Dax entered the lab, his armor clanking against the metal floor. The other specimens show similar resistance. The female actually metabolized the burning ice extract completely. Tarn's eyes shifted to green, the color of excitement. "This changes everything we know about xenobiology. These humans aren't just resistant. They're adaptive at the cellular level. It makes them a threat," Dax insisted. "If they can survive our most potent weapons, what else can they withstand?" On the examination table, Tom's vision began to clear as the burning sensation faded. He could hear the aliens talking, though they clearly thought he was too incapacitated to understand. "We must inform the High Council," Tarn said. "These results exceed all projections." "The Council will order their elimination," Dax replied. "A species that can resist our biological arsenal is too dangerous to allow in galactic space, and waste this opportunity for knowledge," Tarn argued. "We need more tests." While they debated, Tom focused on wiggling his fingers. The restraints had loosened slightly as the mechanical arms recalibrated for the next test. If he could just reach the small tool he'd managed to hide in his jumpsuit during the last examination. In the cell beside him, Anna watched through her wall as Tom slowly worked his hand free. She began tapping a new message to the others. "Get ready." On the other side of the lab, Admiral Grott entered with a team of senior officials. His eyes were a dark red, the color of alarm. "The humans have noticed their missing crew," he announced. "Their ship is demanding answers. Prepare the test subjects for transport to the secure facility. The High Council wants them moved immediately." Tom smiled faintly. His people were coming. Now he just needed to stay alive long enough for them to find him. Commander Lisa Brooks stood at the bridge of the rescue vessel Defiant, her eyes fixed on the tactical display showing the massive Vex flagship. 4 days had passed since Tom Miller's maintenance team had disappeared. 4 days of diplomatic double talk and excuses from the Vex. "Status report," she ordered, her voice calm despite the tension filling the bridge. Lieutenant Mark looked up from his console. "We're maintaining position at 5 kilometers from the Vex ship. They've denied our docking request again." Same excuse. Quarantine protocols. Lisa's jaw tightened, and our scans. The Vex shields block most of our sensors, Mark replied, but we detected a brief energy fluctuation in their lower decks that matches human biosignatures. Our people are alive, Commander. The communications officer spoke up. Commander, Captain Reed is calling from Earth. Priority channel. Put him through, Lisa said. Captain Jack Reed's face appeared on the main screen. The first contact hero looked troubled, his usual confident expression replaced by a deep frown. Commander Brooks, what's your situation? He asked without preamble. The Vex continue to deny any knowledge of our missing personnel, Lisa reported, but our scans suggest otherwise. I'm preparing to take more direct action. Jack nodded grimly. I've been reviewing the medical data from our meetings with the Vex. Our doctors found something strange in my blood work. Traces of a compound that shouldn't be there. Something highly toxic that my body processed without symptoms. Lisa's eyes widened slightly. They poisoned you during first contact. It appears so. And now they've taken our people, likely for the same reason. To understand why their toxins don't work on us. That changes things, Lisa said. This isn't just a rescue mission anymore. It's evidence of hostile intent. Proceed carefully, Commander, Jack warned. We don't want an interstellar war, but get our people back. After the call ended, Lisa gathered her senior officers in the tactical room. She pointed to a holographic display of the Vex ship. We have reason to believe the Vex are conducting unauthorized biological tests on our missing crew, she announced. Diplomatic options have been exhausted. We're going in. Their defenses outmatch ours 10-1, the tactical officer pointed out. Lisa smiled thinly, which is why we're not going to attack them. We're going to use what they fear most against them, us. The plan came together quickly. 2 hours later, Lisa stood in an environmental suit near the airlock, accompanied by a small team of 6 specialists. Remember, she instructed them, our goal is extraction, not confrontation. The Vex are terrified of our biology. We'll use that fear as a weapon. The team launched in a small shuttle, approaching the Vex flagship from below. Instead of heading for the main docking bays, they targeted a maintenance hatch near where their scans had detected human biosignatures. When they reached the hull, the engineering specialist attached a device to the outer plating. This will emit the same frequency as their maintenance drones, he explained. It should trick the security systems long enough for us to cut through. The plan worked perfectly. The hatch opened automatically, recognizing what it thought was routine maintenance. Lisa's team slipped inside, moving quickly through the service corridors. They encountered their first Vex guard 10 minutes later. Before the alien could sound an alarm, Lisa stepped forward, removing her helmet. "Hello," she said simply. The guard's eyes flashed yellow with fear. He backed away, raising his weapon uncertainly. "Your scientists have our people," Lisa continued, stepping closer. "Take us to them, or I will breathe on you." It was a psychological gamble based on what they knew about Vex fears of human biology. The guard's eyes darted frantically between Lisa's exposed face and his communication device. "Lower deck," he finally said through his translator. "Laboratory section, but you cannot reach it. The ship will stop you." Lisa smiled. "Thank you for your help." The guard fled down the corridor, no doubt to sound the alarm. "That bought us maybe 5 minutes," Lisa said, replacing her helmet. "Let's move." As alarms began to blare throughout the ship, Lisa's team rushed deeper into the Vex vessel, following the biosignature readings that grew stronger with each passing minute. They were close now. She could feel it. "Hold on, Tom," she whispered. "We're coming." Tom Miller had almost freed his right hand when the alarms started blaring throughout the laboratory. The Vex scientists scattered in panic, gathering data tablets and vials of test samples. "Secure the specimens," Officer Dax shouted, his eyes pulsing an angry red. "The transport ship arrives in 10 minutes. Scientist Tarn hurried to the control panel. "The security system reports human biosignatures in Sector 7. They've breached our hull. Tom suppressed a smile. He'd known Lisa wouldn't abandon them. In the confusion, he finally worked his hand free and reached for the small metal shard he'd hidden in his jumpsuit, a piece of equipment he'd broken off during an earlier examination. With quick movements, he began working on the other restraint. Down the corridor, Commander Lisa Brooks and her team fought their way through increasingly desperate Vex security forces. Unlike the scientists, the guards seemed less afraid of human biology and more concerned with stopping the intruders. 2 more guards ahead. Lieutenant Mark warned, checking his scanner. Heavy weapons. Lisa nodded to the tactical specialist. Smoke grenades. Remember, non-lethal force only. The corridor filled with dense white smoke. The team moved through it wearing their enhanced visors, quickly subduing the confused guards. The biosignatures are strongest through that door, Mark said, pointing ahead. Lisa approached the sealed laboratory entrance. Breach it. As the engineering specialist prepared the door charges, Admiral Grode's voice came over the ship's communication system. Human intruders, halt your advance. You are violating sovereign Vex territory. Withdraw immediately or face destruction. Lisa ignored the warning. The charges detonated with a controlled blast, and the laboratory door slid open. Inside, Tom had freed himself and was working on releasing Anna from her cell when the rescue team burst in. Officer Dax and 2 guards raised their weapons, but froze when Lisa removed her helmet again. Nobody move, she commanded. We're taking our people home. Scientist Tarn stepped forward, his eyes a calculating blue. Commander, there has been a misunderstanding. These humans are part of an authorized scientific exchange. Save it, Lisa replied coldly. We know about the poison at the first contact meeting. We know about your experiments. Admiral Grot entered the laboratory, flanked by more guards. This incident could lead to war, Commander. Consider your actions carefully. Lisa looked at Tom and the other captured engineers, seeing the injection marks on their arms and the exhaustion in their eyes. Her anger flared, but she kept her voice steady. There won't be war, Admiral, because you're going to listen very carefully to my proposal. She nodded to Mark, who set up a small communication device on a nearby table. Captain Reed is waiting to speak with your High Council, Lisa explained. He has an offer that will resolve this situation peacefully. The device activated, projecting a hologram of Captain Jack Reed standing confidently in his uniform. Admiral Grot, Jack greeted. I suggest we clear the air between our species with a public demonstration. Grot's eyes narrowed suspiciously. What demonstration? Your empire believes humans are a biological threat, Jack said. Let's address those fears directly. I propose a public event, broadcast across your empire, where I will voluntarily consume your deadliest toxin. The laboratory fell silent. Even the rescued engineers looked shocked. You would deliberately poison yourself? Tarn asked, incredulous. To establish trust between our peoples, Jack confirmed. Under one condition, all human prisoners are released immediately, and we establish new diplomatic protocols based on honesty. Admiral Grot conferred quietly with his officers before responding. The High Council will require assurances this is not some human trick. Jack smiled. No tricks, Admiral. Just biology. You'll provide the toxin. Your scientists will verify its potency, and your people will witness that humans are not to be feared, merely understood. Tom caught Lisa's eye and gave her a subtle nod of understanding. This wasn't just a rescue mission anymore. It was a power play that would reshape humanity's place in the galaxy. Prepare your demonstration, Captain. Admiral Grot finally agreed. The galaxy will indeed be watching. As the rescue team helped the freed engineers toward the exit, Lisa whispered to Tom, "Can he really do this? Drink their worst poison." Tom smiled weakly. "After what I've seen in this lab, Lisa, he can do it with a smile." The Grand Assembly Hall of the Vex flagship buzzed with tension. Hundreds of high-ranking Vex officials filled the tiered seating, their eyes shifting between anxious yellows and curious blues. On a raised platform at the center stood Captain Jack Reed, looking remarkably calm for a man about to drink poison. Beside him, Admiral Grot addressed the assembly while hovering cameras transmitted the event across the Vex Empire. "Today, we witness an unprecedented demonstration," Grot announced, his translator projecting his voice throughout the hall. "The human captain has volunteered to consume eternal night, our most powerful toxin, to prove that our species can coexist without fear." Scientist Tarn approached with a clear container. Inside swirled a liquid so black it seemed to absorb the light around it. "This compound destroys cellular structures at the molecular level," Tarn explained for the broadcast. "A single drop has eliminated entire ecosystems on test planets. No known species has survived contact with it." Murmurs spread through the assembly. A Vex official stood up. "If this human dies, it could trigger war with Earth," he protested. "This demonstration is too risky." Jack stepped forward. "That's why I insisted on this broadcast. My government knows this is my choice. There will be no retaliation, regardless of the outcome." Tom Miller and Commander Lisa Brooks watched from the side of the platform, still recovering from their ordeal in the laboratory. Lisa leaned closer to Tom. "Can he really survive that stuff?" she whispered. Tom nodded slightly. "They gave me a diluted version. It was rough, but our cellular structure processes these compounds differently. Something about Earth's evolutionary history gives us an advantage." On the central platform, Tarn carefully poured a small amount of the black liquid into a ceremonial cup. The substance moved strangely, almost as if alive. Jack took the cup, looking directly into the main camera. "To peace between our worlds," he said, and drank the entire contents in one swallow. The assembly hall went completely silent. Even the cameras seemed to hover closer. For several seconds, nothing happened. Jack stood perfectly still, his face showing only mild discomfort. Then he placed the empty cup on the platform and smiled. "It tastes better than your first attempt, Admiral," he said casually. The hall erupted in chaos. Vex officials jumped from their seats, shouting questions and exclamations that overwhelmed the translation systems. The cameras continued broadcasting the impossible scene to billions of Vex citizens across hundreds of worlds. Admiral Grot raised his 4 arms, calling for order. "The demonstration speaks for itself," he announced when the noise subsided. "Humans possess biological capabilities beyond our understanding." Tarn rushed forward with scanning equipment, examining Jack with obvious scientific excitement. "Your cells are not just resisting the compound. They're breaking it down. This is revolutionary." Beyond the Vex Empire, the broadcast spread quickly to other alien civilizations. On the desert world of Krull, the Hive Collective gathered around communication terminals, their segmented bodies vibrating with alarm. In the crystal cities of the Lumina, the light-based entities rippled with new colors as they processed the information. Back on Earth, the United Defense Council watched the broadcast with growing satisfaction. General Pierce turned to his colleagues. "Phase 1 complete," he said. "Humanity just became the most feared and sought-after species in the galaxy." As the demonstration concluded, 3 alien ships not belonging to the Vex entered the system, requesting immediate diplomatic contact with the humans. "Captain," Lisa reported, checking her communications device, "we're receiving messages from 7 different species. They all want to establish relations with Earth." Jack nodded, understanding the implications. In one bold move, humanity had transformed from newcomers to key players in galactic politics. Admiral Grot approached Jack privately after the broadcast ended. His eyes had shifted to a deep purple, a color Jack had never seen before. "You have changed everything," Grot said quietly. "The High Council is in emergency session. Some fear you, others wish to ally with you." "And you, Admiral?" Jack asked. "What do you think?" "I think," Grot replied, "that the galaxy was simpler yesterday." As news of the poisoned drinker spread across space, Humanity's future among the stars was suddenly very different than anyone had imagined. 1 month after the famous poison demonstration, Captain Jack Reed stood at the window of the newly established Earth Embassy on the Vex homeworld. The sprawling alien city stretched before him, its twisted metal towers reaching toward 3 pale moons. A steady stream of vehicles moved through the air in organized patterns. "Quite a view," said Tom Miller, joining him at the window. The engineer looked healthier now. The marks from his captivity faded. "Hard to believe they wanted us dead just a few weeks ago." Jack smiled. Amazing what drinking a little poison can do for diplomatic relations. The door to the embassy chamber opened, and Commander Lisa Brooks entered, carrying a data tablet. "The final treaty is ready for your review, Captain," she reported. "The Vex High Council has accepted all our terms." Jack took the tablet, scanning through the document quickly. Trade routes, technology exchange, mutual defense agreements, and special provisions for human medical specialists to work with Vex researchers. "They're calling it the Poison Drinker Treaty in unofficial channels," Lisa said with a hint of amusement. "Your little stunt has become quite the legend." A soft chime announced the arrival of their Vex visitors. Admiral Grot entered, accompanied by Scientist Tarn and a delegation of officials. Their eyes glowed a respectful blue as they greeted the humans with the newly adopted Earth-style handshake. Though with 4 arms, the gesture looked somewhat comical. "Captain Reed," Grot said through his improved translator, "the High Council has prepared the formal apology ceremony for the captured maintenance crew. All Vex media networks will broadcast it." Tom stepped forward. "Will Officer Dax be there?" "I'd like to see him again, under better circumstances." "Officer Dax has been reassigned to the outer colonies," Grot replied, his eyes briefly flashing yellow. Embarrassment. His approach to first contact protocols has been deemed outdated. Jack nodded diplomatically. "We all learn from our mistakes, Admiral." The formal ceremony took place in the same Grand Assembly Hall where Jack had consumed the Eternal Night Toxin. This time, however, the atmosphere was completely different. The Vex officials stood as the human delegation entered, a sign of respect that would have been unthinkable before. The High Council leader, an ancient Vex with pale gray skin, presented each of the former captives with a ceremonial medal, a symbol of formal apology in Vex culture. "In recognition of your unwilling contribution to science," the leader announced, "you are granted the status of honored knowledge givers, the highest civilian recognition in our empire." As Tom received his medal, whispers spread through the assembly. Many Vex still feared human biology, but that fear had transformed into a complex mix of respect and scientific curiosity. After the ceremony, representatives from 7 other alien civilizations approached Jack. Each had traveled vast distances to meet the humans face to face. "Your species has created quite the stir, Captain Reed," said the representative from the crystalline lumina, its translucent body glowing with soft blue light. "Many worlds wish to establish relations with the poison eaters." "We come in peace," Jack assured them, repeating the phrase that had become Earth's unofficial motto. "Yes," replied the insectoid delegate from the Hive Collective, its mandibles clicking. "But you survive in war. This makes you valuable allies." Later that evening, as the Earth delegation prepared to return to their embassy, Admiral Grot pulled Jack aside for a private word. "There is something you should know," Grot said quietly. "Before your demonstration, the war faction of our council had prepared invasion plans for Earth. They believed your biology made you too dangerous to exist." Jack's expression remained neutral. "And now?" "Now they believe your biology makes you too dangerous to fight," Grot answered. "The balance of power has shifted, Captain. Use it wisely." As their shuttle lifted off from the Vex capital, Tom looked back at the alien city, now illuminated by countless lights in the growing dusk. "Do you think they'll ever truly trust us?" he asked. Jack watched as the city shrank below them. "Trust is earned over time, but respect." He smiled. "Respect can be earned in a single swallow." Back on Earth, The United Defense Council was already planning humanity's expansion into the stars. On screens around the council table, data scrolled showing requests for human medical experts, military advisors, and biological researchers from dozens of alien civilizations. General Pierce studied the reports with satisfaction. Who would have thought, he mused, that our greatest weapon would be our ability to drink poison and ask for seconds? The galaxy would never be the same again.